My name is Jim with Rupert's Woodworks. Today I'm going to be building a Christmas sign. My wife and I saw it locally at a little decor shop. In the back of my mind I was thinking, well, I could easily make that. Not so easy of a build, not as easy as I thought. Cutting out the font was a little bit of a challenge, but just going to surprise my wife with it this afternoon. So if you want to see how I do it, stick with me and I'll show you how.
First thing I had to do was make a little stencil. Now I know I could just trace this right onto the wood, but I try to prepare for the future in case I ever need to make one of these again. I will have a stencil to make it a lot easier. So first I drew it out on some poster board, took some measurements to make sure it was close in size, and you can see in the background there I have it pulled up on my computer. This is an image from the store, and I came pretty close. So it's 4 feet wide, 28 inches high. Drilling out some holes to make my cuts a little bit easier, and I'm not that great with the jigsaw, so I figured this would be the perfect project for me to practice. So it took me quite a while to do this, and this was a surprise for my wife, so I had to take it in steps, and if she was coming home from work I'd have to put everything away and get it back out again, and it was a pretty big hassle. So this took me quite a bit, and I had to be pretty careful not to snap any of the little pieces off. It was just 1/4 inch, so it was pretty fragile in the middle there. So I can honestly say I am much better than I was when I first started with the jigsaw. So after this, I started to spray it with some glitter spray paint. You can see there, it was not covering over the Sharpie marks. Luckily I had a brown can of spray paint laying around, which I used as a base. This covered all the lines, and then I covered it with this, just a small can of glitter spray paint from the craft store, and this was a lot easier. It made the glitter spread out more evenly than if I were to just have to sprinkle it on there. And it is pretty glittery. Not a big glitter fan, but happy wife, happy life. Alright, next thing, I had to break apart my pallets. With pine pallets, I find this to be the easiest way. I do have a Pallet Pal or Pallet Pro, whatever Izzy Swans is called. That seems to work better with hardwoods. This is the easiest way for me. As long as they are long enough, I just cut them and then pry the nails and pop the nails out. I just want to make sure they're long enough. Then you just have to pry out the middle ones and your success rate is higher. And then next I set them up, make sure my measurements are good, and move on to the next step.
Alright, next I'm ready to cut down the pallet pieces. I just got this new saw, well, new to me. I got it on Craigslist for a heck of a deal. First time I'm using it for a project, so I have it all set up. I'm going to cut off the waste material, and then I have this fence here set up to cut at 25 inches. So I can cut off the waste and slide it up and know that every single cut will be the exact same. So let's get started.
So here I am making the backdrop of the sign, and I square up one edge and then slide it down to the fence and make another cut, and this will assure that all my pieces are the same length. So some of these pieces were cracked or had a bunch of holes in them, so I wanted to cut those off, and then I square it up on my joiner, and then I'll run them through my table saw to make sure all my pieces are square so they sit nice and flush with one another as the backdrop of the sign. Then I'm up next. I'm going to run them through my saw. Here are my fancy slow-mo. I have masking tape on each piece, and I have the boards in stacks from smallest to largest, and I started at a 1 7/8 and I went all the way up to 4 inches. So having them in stacks made the process a lot quicker, and then I only had to adjust every few boards. There's my homemade Micro-Jig. I'll leave a link in the description. I made that myself, and I'll leave a link if you want to check out that video. Here I am trying my hand at my artistic ability, which not too great. So I have an off-white paint. I'm just touching the surface of the paint with an old beat-up brush and then you just basically just swipe it back and forth. I mean, there's really not much to it. It was pretty easy. You have to dabble your paintbrush in there quite a few times, but after one or two boards, you pretty much get the hang of it. This was the first time I did anything like this without having to sand the paint off to give it that rustic look. So a lot quicker, and I was overall pretty happy with it. I added some green and some gray in there. My wall is green, so I wanted to pull some of that color onto the sign here. So this was probably pretty fun. This was probably my favorite part of the build, just because I've never done anything like it before.
I recently bought an exterior door, and it came with this brick molding on it. But because I'm putting up a storm door, I had to remove it. So I had it just laying around the shop and figured I might as well use it for the frame. It's already primed, and then I'll only need 1 or 2 coats for it. So I'm just going to cut some miters on it and cut out a dado on the side here for the pallet pieces to slip underneath. So let's get to it.
I can already hear it. Or a rabbit. Dado, rabbit, I've heard people call it many different things. So just going to cut these down to size. The overall length of the frame is 48 inches by 28 inches. So I was really happy with how this Bosch cut my 45s. They fit together real nice and tight. So here I'm cutting the rabbit out on my table saw, and I send all 4 pieces through using my feather board for hold them in tight to the fence, and then moving them over. And rather than doing it by the ruler on the back, I like to always eyeball it up first. So I'm getting in there nice and close, and I was pretty happy overall with the rabbit. Just had to raise the blade once. So here's a better view of that. And I have a little Craig marking gauge there, and I use that quite a bit throughout the shop. And there you can see it, so those pallet pieces will fit right behind there. Up next, I'm gluing up the frame. I have these squares from Rockler, little clamps in them. They make it really easy. I dabbed a little CA glue in there just to hold it. Just a little extra clamping strength. And then I clamp them in and tack them together just with, I think they were 2-inch brads. So it probably wasn't necessary, but I don't want it to fall apart. And same process here, little wood glue, little CA glue, little clamp action, and a couple nails. Good to go. Measuring it, make sure I'm square. And I put a glue on the inside lip, and I wanted to brush it to get it away from the inside of the frame, so that when I set the pallet pieces in there, it wouldn't spread out, so the glue would be visible. And I put these in once before and had to shim them up a little bit so everything stayed nice and tight. And then I had an extra piece of 1/4 inch and just held it on the back, hold them all together, and put a bunch of staples in them just to make it one piece. And I know I forgot to put glue on the first piece, but I don't think it really matters. And again, just putting about 300 staples in the back. Alright, next thing, put it all together. So dab a little rapid fuse. I use this from time to time. Put that on certain points of the sign and just tacked it in with my pin nailer. Next, I had to get it out of my hiding spot because my wife was home all weekend and didn't want her to stumble upon it in the garage. And I didn't have any hardware to hang it, so just putting that on now, pre-drilling so my frame doesn't split. And then I had some heavy-duty cable, so hang it up on there. I have 2 hooks on my wall, and it's pretty sturdy. So here I am taking the sign down, and overall I was very pleased with it. My wife was super surprised and happy. She loves it, and I'm pretty happy about it too. So we're starting off the Christmas season early. I appreciate everyone taking the time watching the video. Please like, share, and subscribe. I appreciate all of it. I'll leave Amazon links in the bottom too. If you guys want to pick out anything on there, some of the things I use in my shop, it really helps me out a lot. So thanks for sticking with me. Enjoy your holiday season, and take care.